Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be explaining you regarding Buckingham's pi theorem. This will be complete explanatory part regarding the theorem, like what is the statement of the theorem and what is the process, what are repeating variables, how to select them, and the step-by-step procedure for solving numericals using Buckingham's pi theorem will be discussed here. So if you could have watched my earlier videos, there I have explained you regarding Rayleigh's method, where Rayleigh's method is establishing relationship between variables which are less than or equal to 4. It includes both dependent and independent variables. So if the number of variables is equal to or less than 4, then you can adopt Rayleigh's method. But once the number of variables exceeds 4, then it becomes difficult to get the relationship between the variables, and hence we adopt Buckingham's pi theorem. So Buckingham's pi theorem is useful to establish a functional relationship between variables involved in a physical phenomenon which are greater than 4. Okay, so coming to the statement of Buckingham's pi theorem, say suppose if there are n variables involved in a physical phenomenon. Say you have any physical phenomenon where you are having total number of variables are n. So n involves both dependent and also the independent variables. So just add them all, and if they are supposed to be the value of n, then each variable contains m fundamental dimensions. See, however, we have fundamental dimensions fixed, which are L, M, L and T, which is capital M, capital N and capital T, which are fundamental dimensions or primary dimensions, and they are fixed. They are 3, correct? So we denote it with the symbol m. So if there are total n variables in the phenomenon and if there are m fundamental dimensions, then you have to write n minus m dimensionless terms known as pi terms. Means, say suppose if there are 8 variables involved in a physical phenomenon, it's both the dependent and independent variable summation. So totally if there are 8 variables, and obviously we have only 3 fundamental dimensions, which is MLT. So how many pi terms we will be getting? 8 minus 3, 5 pi terms we will be getting. Clear? Say x1, x2, x3 and so on, xn are the variables involved in the physical problem. I told you there are n variables, right? So I'm writing right from x1 to xn. x1 is the dependent variable and which is depending upon x2, x3 and so on. So he's telling in this n variables right from x1 to xn, x1 is the dependent variable and the other all terms right from x2 to xn are independent variables. So then the first step what you have to do in Buckingham's pi theorem is first check what is the dependent variable, what are the independent variables. Say if you know the dependent variable, then you should write this dependent variable as a function of the other independent variables. According to our case, our x1 is the dependent variable and the other terms are the independent variables. So you should write x1 as f of x2, x3 and so on xn equal and so on xn. That's the first equation what you have to write. Write dependent variable as a function of the other independent variables. That's the very first step. So from here what can I write? I can write f1 of x1, x2. So if I involve this x1 also inside the functionality, then I'll get equal to 0. That's the second step what you have to do, or the second equation what you need to write in the Buckingham's pi theorem. So the first equation is regarding dependent and independent variables. So once if anybody observes this first equation, they'll come to know, okay, x1 is the dependent variable which is a function of the other independent variables. Similarly, if they observe the second equation, they should know that f1 of something, all the variables equal to 0 means the total number of variables in this inside this bracket are n. So you will come to know how many variables are involved in this phenomenon. So equation 2 is a dimensionally homogeneous equation. You know what is a dimensionally homogeneous equation, right? Which I have discussed in my earlier videos. And it contains n variables. So I told you, right, when you write f of something equal to 0, then what all variables inside this f of something will give you the number of variables. You can rightly count 1, 2, 3 and so on n. Means there are n variables. According to our statement, what we have to do now? I have n variables with me. I have m fundamental dimensions. So I should write n minus m pi terms. So I should write as f of pi 1 comma pi 2 and so on. How many pi terms will I get? N minus m. So the last pi term will be pi n minus m equal to 0. This is the third step. Next, okay, now up to these three equations, what you understood? The first equation is writing dependent variable as a function of independent variables. The second equation is about writing total number of variables involved in the phenomenon. And the third equation is about writing pi terms. So up to third equation, you have a clarity like how many pi terms are formed. You wrote n minus m, means there are n variables, there are m fundamental dimensions, so n minus m pi terms are there. So till equation 3 you got how many pi terms are involved in the phenomenon, but you don't know what each pi term should consist of. You just know the number of pi terms. You don't know what is the composition of each pi term. So that's what will be the next continuation in this theorem. So each pi term will consist of m plus 1 variables. Always remember how many the number of pi terms may be. It may be 5 or 8 or 10, any number of pi terms they may be, but every single pi term will consist of m plus 1 variables. M means the number of fundamental dimensions. What is the number of fundamental dimensions for us? 3 obviously, which is capital M, capital T. Only those three are fundamental dimensions. So obviously every pi term will consist of how many variables now? 3 plus 1, 4 variables. And why you are writing only 3 plus 1, m plus 1? This m is the number of fundamental dimensions, and also here this 3, okay, you are telling each pi term is consisting of 4 variables. In that 3, so now everybody understood that every pi term is consisting of 4 variables. In that 4 variables, 3 variables will be repeating in all the pi terms. Those 3 terms are called as repeating variables. I'm repeating. You know every pi term is consisting of 3 plus 1, 4 variables. In this 3 plus 1, 4 variables, 3 variables will be same in all the pi terms. Say suppose we are having 5 pi terms for our understanding. If I take the same earlier example, if there are total 8 variables involved in the phenomenon, I have 3 fundamental dimensions. Hence my pi terms are 8 minus 3, 5. So pi 1, pi 2, pi 3, pi 4, pi 5 are my 5 pi terms. Now in every pi term, means for example if I take pi 1, in pi 1 I will be having 4 variables. Even in pi 2 also I should have 4 variables. Even in pi 3 I should have 4 variables, and so on. In pi 5 also I will be having 4 variables. Now in this pi 1 to pi 5, every pi term is having 4 variables. Okay, that's fine. But in that 4 variables, 3 variables will be the same, will be the repeating in all the pi terms. Those repeating variables, those 3 terms are called, or those 3 variables are called repeating variables. Okay, why we are selecting only 3 repeating variables means again we are having only fundamental dimensions as 3. Okay, now see here, if I take the same example, I will select 3 repeating variables. x2, x3, x4 I have selected as repeating variables, and they will be common for all the pi terms. Every pi term should consist 4 variables. Okay, there are 4 variables, x2, x3, x4 and x1. There are 4 variables, fine. In that every pi term, 3 variables must be common. They must be repeating. What are they? Repeating variables, x2, x3, x4. So any pi term you take, this x2, x3, x4 will be the same. So you should write each pi term as, say suppose if in this case you are taking x2, x3, x4 as repeating variables, then pi 1 is equal to x2 to the power of a1 into x3 to the power of b1 into x4 to the power of c1 into x1. Pi 2 is equal to x2 to the power of a2 into x3 to the power of b2 into x4 to the power of c2 into xy. Means they are the remaining variables. Okay, first what you should do is write pi 1 is equal to whatever repeating variables you have, first write them x2, x3, x4 to the power a1 to the power b1 to the power c1. Similarly, pi 2, x2, x3, x4, a2, b2, c2. Similarly, xn minus m, pi n minus m, x2 power an minus m, x3 power bn minus m, x4 power cn minus m. Into remaining variables you have, right from the dependent variable x1, x5, x6, like this you will be getting inside. So totally, if you consider every pi term, there are 4 variables, out of which 3 are repeating variables. Fine, this is how you have to write the fourth equation. I'm repeating, first equation will be writing dependent variable as a function of independent variables. Second equation will be writing all the variables on one side so that we can count the number of variables. Third equation will be writing number of pi terms. Fourth equation will be writing about what each pi term should consist of. Now, once you finish off your equation 4, you will solve this using principle of dimensional homogeneity. If you remember, we have solved dimensional homogeneity as, now I already told you pi 1, pi 2, pi 3 and so on, pi n minus m are all dimensionless terms. They do not have any dimensions. So we will write m power 0, l power 0, t power 0 equal to, now this variable x2 will have, x2 is a variable, means say something it's like density rho. So rho will have a dimensional formula, right? ml power minus 3 to the power of a1 into, say x3 is some v velocity, again to the power of velocity is lt power minus 1, like that. Equate all the powers of m on both sides, you'll get a1. Equate all the powers of l1, you'll get b1. Equate all the powers of t, you'll get c1, like that. You get the exponents. Once you finish off the exponents, I can substitute back in equation 4, you'll get the values of pi 1, pi 2 and so on. Okay. As I've told you, solve using principle of dimensional homogeneity to get the values of a1, b1, c1 and so on. After you get these exponents, substitute in equation 4, then you'll finish off writing pi 1, pi 2, pi 3 and so on. So once you finish off writing the pi terms, substitute back them again in equation 3. What was our equation 3? This one. Okay. Then from there you can write each pi term as, if you remove the functionality, then it will be phi of, we put generally phi by because k we don't put, just to put a constant, this phi is some constant. K generally we start, but k is also, you have a bulk modulus, so hence we don't involve k. You just put some phi and write this. Okay, this is totally equation number 5. Here we will end off the problem. Clear, guys? First equation is, I'm repeating, first equation is writing about dependent variable as function of independent variable. Second equation is writing about all the variables on one side to count them. Third equation is writing about number of pi terms. Fourth equation is writing about what is the composition of each pi term. Fifth equation is writing about solving the pi terms, and finally getting what is pi 1 and pi 2. This is what establishing a relationship between the variables. I was talking about repeating variables, right? Now let's see how to select the repeating variables. Blindly you can't select whatever variable you like. We should have a procedure for this. So see here, the number of repeating variables are equal to the number of fundamental dimensions of the problem. I already told you. Number of fundamental dimensions are always 3, hence the repeating variables are also 3. Then let's see the conditions in selecting the variables. As far as possible, the dependent variable should not be selected as a repeating variable. So in our case, x1 was the repeating variable, right? Dependent variable, right? x1 was depending upon some other variables. So x1 should not be selected as a repeating variable. Next, repeating variables should be chosen in such a way that one variable contains geometric property, one variable contains flow property, and the third variable contains fluid property. So he's telling very clearly, you are selecting 3 repeating variables. So in that, one should contain geometric property. Geometric properties means length, width, breadth, height, depth, diameter, like that. Next, flow property. Flow properties means fluid flow properties like velocity, acceleration, discharge, like that. Next, third one should contain fluid property. So fluid properties means the properties which fluid generally possess: density, viscosity, kinematic viscosity, like that. Okay, specific weight, like that. Even you can take surface tension, like that. Whatever property the fluid will possess. Third important point, the repeating variable should not form a dimensionless group. You have to see very carefully that at least in one variable, if there is no one of the fundamental dimension is missing, you have to see that it will exist in other one also. Like for example, you have selected velocity. Okay, from flow property you have selected velocity. In what is the dimensional formula of velocity? Lt power minus 1. There is no m, correct? Then you have to see that in length. Now again you have selected geometric property wise length. In length, what is the dimensional formula for length? It's only capital L. There is no m, there is no t. But still I have no problem. Why? Because I've selected velocity also. So velocity is also having t. So now I have to see that I should select the fluid property such that in this fluid property variable there should be m. So if I select density, it's fine. Why? Because density is mass by volume, m L power minus 3. So if I select these 3 repeating variables, length, there is L. If I select velocity, there is L and T. If I select rho, there is m and L. So finally I could find all m, L and T at one place. So you have to be careful in choosing like that. If you select another fluid property without m, then it's no use. Okay, why? Because you'll get m power 0. That shouldn't happen. You should get some variable for a1, b1 and c1. Hence, you should do select like that. The repeating variables together must have the same number of fundamental dimensions. And the last one, no two repeating variables should have the same dimensions. So when you're selecting the variables, see that they shouldn't have the same dimensions. Means same, say suppose if you're taking length, dimensional formula of length is L. If you take diameter also it is L. If you take height also it's L. So like that, see that they shouldn't have the same dimensions. Even you have moment and torque. Moment and torque both have the same dimensional formula. So see that you don't select like that. And for your easy remembering, I have given the best choice of repeating variables. You have the combination dv rho. D is diameter, V is velocity, rho is density, one geometric property, one flow property and one fluid property. You have LV rho, you have LV mu and you have dV mu. If in any problem you find these four combinations, blindly select them. Okay? dV rho, LV mu and dV mu. These are the best combinations ever. Clear? So this is all about Buckingham's pi theorem. I hope you understood this video. And please do watch my next video, which is a numerical problem related to Buckingham's pi theorem. Still, if you get any doubt in the explanatory part, I'm pretty sure that doubt will be clarified for you in the numerical problem. Why? Because when you're solving a problem practically, you will know how many variables are there and how many pi terms will come and how to solve them dimensionally. You need not worry about x1, x2 and so on like that. So a proper understanding, proper clarity will be there if you watch the numerical also. Okay, this is all about Buckingham's pi theorem explanatory part. Let's go back for the next video, come back for the next video, do watch it for the numerical. And this Buckingham's pi theorem is really very important for undergraduate exam point of view, for sure, especially for people who are writing their second year exams. Generally when you are doing the course of fluid mechanics and HHM, compulsory you'll have a question on Buckingham's pi theorem. You may get a explanatory part, nothing but this derivation followed by a problem, or else you may have a problem directly. And one big advantage in Buckingham's pi theorem is that you need not get the exact relationship like in Rayleigh's method. You can just get a functional relationship. So once you understand the process, it's very clear. So do watch my next video. Okay, thank you.